Peter was walking through a wooded area when he suddenly heard a strange sound coming from the bushes that caught his attention. He decided to take a look and, to his surprise, saw a strange pink creature. When he looked closer, he thought it was a puppy, but he wasn't sure. He decided to take him to the vet. Upon arrival, the vet immediately said, "Where did you get that from? But before we start, make sure to subscribe if you haven't and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories." It was a sound that Peter was not at all familiar with. He had walked in these woods many times as a child and an adult, but never heard anything like this before. This animal looked anything but dangerous. It was clearly a young animal, but Peter was not sure what kind exactly. But despite him not knowing what animal this was exactly, he did understand why it was making this sound. This puppy was much too young to survive here without his mother, and seeing how thin it had become, Peter suspected that its mother had not been here in a while. Seeing the state that this poor animal was in, the decision was not a hard one to make. He very carefully reached out to the puppy and lifted the animal up. He could not go to the vet as he was not open on the weekend, only for emergencies, but that would cost a lot more money. They had a dog at home, and when he still lived with his parents, they actually had their dog deliver a litter of puppies that he was more than willing to help with. There are a lot of creatures living in the forest of which we have no idea how their babies look. It could easily have very much belonged in the forest, and Peter was interfering in something he had no business in. Peter was very much surprised by this negative reaction, mainly because he did not see it like that at all. In his mind, he was doing something very noble. He was making an effort to save a defenseless and helpless creature. For now, he was going to do everything in his power to keep this animal alive. Back home, Peter started preparing the milk before even telling his wife Bianca that he had brought something home. And she walked in on him giving the animal the bottle and was stunned by what she was witnessing. Just behind her, their dog Benjamin also walked into the room, and the moment he laid eyes on the creature in Peter's hand, he charged him and started to bark as loud as he could. Bianca just about managed to grab him by the collar and pull him back. They had never seen their dog behave like this. Peter put the animal down for a second and helped Bianca get Benjamin into another room. What made this animal so different? While Peter was making a place for the creature to spend the night, she actually took it upon herself to look online if she could find anything that resembled this very strange-looking baby animal. But she also knew that maybe only the vet could give them an answer with any kind of confidence. And so she was happy that Peter had set up an appointment for the next day, early in the morning. The appointment with the vet was in about 1 hour, so they had to get things ready. The couple only had a pretty sizable cage for their own dog, which they could use to transport the baby animal. A lot of speculation. Some people still thought that it might be a puppy, and Peter was among those, but most did not see this as a possibility. It definitely kept the room interested and talking, so much so that when the vet was ready to call in the next patient, he also took notice of the commotion and went over to see what was happening exactly. And he was stunned by what he saw screaming in the oversized cage. He announced to the room that some patients might have to wait a little bit longer because he needed to see this creature urgently. The couple themselves were a bit surprised. When they got into the office, they saw that the vet looked very nervous and impatient. The vet put the animal in its cage again and told the couple that he needed to do some tests on the animal in the other room, as he did not have the right equipment there. At this point, Peter and Bianca saw no reason to question the vet, but they most definitely should have done that. The vet took the caged animal into the back, and to the couple's surprise, it actually stopped screaming very quickly after the vet closed the door behind him. They were very impatient for the vet to come back, as they really wanted to ask the man what kind of animal they were dealing with. When he opened the door, he was greeted by the sight of 2 police officers who were waiting there. Peter was taken aback by this, but even more when he was told that he and Bianca needed to wait in the officer for the time being. After recovering from the shock, Peter demanded an explanation, but the officer did not feel the need to tell him anything other than that it had something to do with the baby animal that he and Bianca had brought in. They still did not know what they had done wrong or what was going on with this animal when the police officers came into the office and asked the couple to come with them to the station for some questioning. Peter and Bianca knew that they had no other choice but to comply here. On the out of the office, he actually saw the vet look at them with disappointment in his eyes, and Peter could not help himself. He asked the vet what they had done wrong or why he called the police, and the answer he got would stay with him for a very long time. This animal should have never been in your possession. Peter was stunned by this response, and he did not really know how to react. He had found this damn creature in the forest. How was he supposed to know that he should have just left it there? The ride to the police station was silent. Not even Peter and Bianca wanted to say a word to each other, afraid that they might reveal something to the police that could work against them. Peter expected that he and Bianca would be questioned separately, as that is what he always saw in all the moving. The only conclusion he could come to was that Peter was innocent, and while Peter and Bianca were very glad to hear the verdict, they were also even more annoyed that it was now clear that they had been arrested for nothing and still did not even really know what they were suspected of. And luckily, this officer was willing to give them what they wanted, starting off with the animal itself. Most people were right. They had not been dealing with a puppy at all. The strange-looking animal was actually a baby babirusa. They had never before heard of this animal, but the officer assured them that this was not strange. He did not know about its existence either until today. The animal turned out to be a baby babirusa. Its mother had escaped from the zoo and given birth in the forest. Apparently, the zoo had a couple of babirusas, and the one female they had been pregnant up to a couple of days ago. But there was a problem. The female had escaped just days before she was said to deliver, and when she was found again, the baby was gone. Babirusas are rare, and so the zoo speculated that somebody had stolen the female to have the baby for him or herself. The zoo had already enlisted the help of the police and alerted all the animal-related professionals in the area, like vets, to be on the lookout for the baby. But now the police officer was convinced that the mother babirusa had gotten out of her enclosure on her own in a desperate attempt to find the perfect place to give birth. But she was sadly captured again without her baby. Luckily, the animal was now already back at its mother at the zoo, getting milk and gaining strength. The zoo ended up strengthening the enclosure, and as a sorry, Peter and Beyonce got lifelong tickets to the zoo for free.